Alright, this is to take off. I'm going to show you how to take off the bumper cover for a 2006 Camry. This might work also for 2002s through 2006s. I know they made them in series, and this will not be the same for 2007 and onward. Based on what I've looked up, I found plenty of videos for 2007s and later, and it looked like they made them a lot easier to remove the way you access the nuts and bolts, because it's not the same for this, and I couldn't find any videos or anything to get these off, and it is a pain in the ass. I gotta say, it took me a few hours to figure it out because there's a lot of bolts in the rear trunk area and you don't know what's what, and you want to start tugging on this thing after you get a few out, but you don't know if you got them all or where it's secured. So I'm going to show you real quick. So first, on the underside of the bumper, there's 4 of these plastic pins. And if you're looking at it from the bottom, they look like this. They come through, you can see these tabs. There's 2 in the back, and then there's 1 on either side behind the rear wheels. So there's 4 total. And you might be able to get these out in a way that you can reuse them. I didn't. I just tore them out. I couldn't figure out how to get them out, and I didn't really have the patience to be delicate with them. I'm going to use zip ties. I'm just going to run a zip tie through those holes, and once it's back on, I pull it tight. So there's those 4 pins. There's also, well, I guess after that you got to take everything out of the trunk. You got to get the mat out, the thing that's holding all the spare tools, and this guy. This guy has there's these 2 hooks. You recognize this, and you got to take those off. Those are a Phillips head or a hex. It's probably 10 millimeter because the rest of these are 10 millimeter. I'm looking at this as if you're looking from inside the trunk outwards at it. And once you get this thing, it's sort of those hooks. You take the screws out, the 1 on each side. They'll sort of pop out. You're gonna snap them, and get that thing out. Then you have to remove. There's that container kind of storage thing on the driver's side in the trunk area. There's 1 bolt holding that in. You take that out, and again, that thing has sort of a pop to it as you pull it out. You get that out of there, and then you can start pulling away this sort of matting. And it's hard to see in this video, but you know what I'm talking about. And this stuff has sort of a form to it, and I think you could probably ruin that if you're not careful with it, so maybe be careful as you pull it away. You get this out, and you'll see the rear of the tail light assembly. You may not have to take the tail light assembly out, but there are these clips, these 2 clips, 1 on each side. And for me, it was just easier to access, and with everything else with this, it was just easy to get them out of the way. And behind the tail light assembly, as well, not behind it, but sort of past it in the back here, you can see, all you can see really are these 2 holes. Now there's 2 nuts there that lead to these 2 bolts here, and that's on either side, so you're going to take those off. There was also 4, again, 10 millimeter hex nuts that are through these access notches in the sheet metal, and those you'll need a long socket to reach those because they're deep in there. I'll show you what that looks like. It's 1 of these, or there's 4 of these, so you need a long socket to get at that. There's also, in addition to those pins, actually from the outside, these are the other ones you get from the outside, there are, up behind the rear wheels, and you gotta sort of get your socket up between the bumper and this, whatever you call this, the guard behind the rear wheel. Squeeze your socket up in there, and you'll find, if you get like a flashlight, another 10 millimeter hex, and you got to get these out. These, they're kind of like screws, and they have this plastic sort of housing they go in, kind of like a sheetrock anchor that you'll see sometimes. It's this thing. So you get the screw out, and this is still poking through. I didn't realize how all this thing was how this whole thing was put together at first, So I was going through the back and hammering this through because, you know, you get that screw out, you think you should be able to get this out, but this, you know, this catches it, so it's not going anywhere. So I hammered this down from the inside. What I realized was what you should do is after you get everything else out, let these be last, and this thing will just snap off as you pull this thing out. You just like pull down. You should be all right. You shouldn't have to go from the inside at them. So, in addition to that, there is also these two holes. You see them on either side. There's two more 10mm hexes, and you undo those. So again, the same on either side. Get those. I think that's everything. Took a while. I was looking up even like parts diagrams, just trying to see what this thing looked like, to see how it looked like it might have been connected, and I couldn't determine all these things. Some of these I found way later after I was sure I got everything off. I couldn't figure out what was holding it on. So again, you got those 4 pins on the bottom. You got those 2 extra screws from the outside that you got to access. They're kind of a pain. There is the 4 long socket hexes that you're going to need to get from the back. Some of those sort of fell in to the frame, the bumper. I got those off, but those will come out later once you get the bumper off. There's the 2, these on either side, past the taillight assembly. You get those off. And then there's the 2 others that you get from the inside. 2 more 10mm hex bolts. And I think there's plus these clips. But, you know, you'll get those. And I think that's everything. The reason I've been trying to do this, thought I'd just get this thing off real quick and I could see if I could pop this out. I still don't know if I'm going to be able to, but this was a giant pain in the ass, so hopefully this comes out alright. But hopefully this helps somebody, because I was not able to find any resources on how to get this bumper off.